Hari Om, dear students, today I will be speaking on a very interesting topic which is not much studied by the Sanskrit scholars on the largest time. The title of the topic is Sanskrit, Games in Sanskrit Literature, and I will be dealing with three games. One is chess, which was known as Chaturanga, then turned into Buddhibala. Then playing cards is the Patar Kreeda, and the last is the snakes and ladders, which was known as the Moksha Pata of Jnaneshwara. So today, in the beginning, the first indoor game is, I will use the original Sanskrit words, so you will be able to understand it. It was known as Chaturanga. In modern times, it is translated into English as four-handed chess, and its revised form is known as Buddhibala, that means two-handed chess. That means where two players are playing and where four players are playing. So Chaturanga has been in India since the Vedic times, you can say, because the important factor in the playing of Chaturanga was the dice. DIC, two dice. One is known as die. If there are two die, it is dice. And they are number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1 and 6 are supposed to be 0, carried no value. So this Aksha was important in Vedic times also, and you are students of Sanskrit, you know the famous Aksha Sukta in the Rigveda, 10th Mandala, where the poet describes the eagerness of the Aksha player to go for playing in, and after losing everything, he comes back crestfallen and then thinks of the consequences which he and his family are supposed to go through. So that is a very simple, it should be said to be a profane, not religious work, but profane. See, when we were learning in 60s, our teachers made it a point that religious literature and non-religious is profane literature, general literature, which has nothing to do with religion, etc., yajna, etc. So this is the profane thing. Same thing, you have a Manduka Sukta, 7th Mandala, I think 103. That also is profane, it does not deal with religious matters. So these are the things which do not fall under religious perspective, so they were known as profane. And profane suktas are more important than what we read or study in the regarding this Surya Sukta, Asurya Sukta, Indra Sukta, etc. They are also important, but these profane suktas give you an idea, a glimpse of the society in that period. So this Aksha Sukta gives a graphic description of the eagerness of that player to go to that place known as Irin. Irin is the name where you put the, in that pit where you put the dice. So he is so eager today, he is almost attracted or fascinated by that place because of his inner energy, inner urge to play something in order to win. Whether he wins or loses is a different thing. But see, everybody in modern times, everybody is crazy to go to see the cricket match, whether you understand it or not, doesn't matter, but we are crazy to go. So that was the craze is expressed in this Sukta, Aksha Sukta. So we can say that Akshas are as old as the Rigveda. So this Chaturanga game must have been prevalent in Rigvedic times because the important factor in the game of Chaturanga was the movement of the dice. Your movement of the chess pieces were regulated by the throw of the dice. If it is 4, it is 3, 2 or 1, whatever. So that was more important. It suggests that general public was playing these games, but the elite persons or the intelligent person did not give much importance to this social orientation or social motivation of Sanskrit literature, and we are under the wrong impression that Indians never knew any games. Indians never knew any table manners while taking lunch, etc. All these are misunderstandings because we were never taught of those things. Our teachers never thought of those things. They never dreamed. So many Sanskrit scholars have not even dreamed that games could be there in Sanskrit literature. I have been working on it for last 47 years. So, I know little bit of some things. So, this is the game which attracted my attention, and when I said, see, my main intention in going to these off the track subjects, these are not traditional accepted research fields. So, generally nobody goes there, it is not their comfort zone. But my interest in Sanskrit literature was, is there any book or text which gives you something about a thing which is not covered in my religion or religious text or suktas or prathanas. So, in that way I tried to read some books, and I got a very small book in Marathi some 50 years back, where he has uttered the word Ganjifa. Ganjifa is the playing cards, what we call the Tasha in Hindi. So, when I got this information, I thought I must go to the oldest literature, which is supposed to be Rigveda, and we had studied Aksha Sukta when I was in BA, somewhere 64, 65. So, that idea was there, that faintly I remember that there is something Aksha there. When I started studying in depth, I came to know a lot of things about this Aksha Kreeda. So, Aksha Kreeda was a gambling game, Chaturanga was a gambling game, but Buddhibal is not a gambling game. I will say why. So, Chaturanga was played with the fruits of the Bibhitaka tree. Bibhitaka is known as modern Behada, which is one of the constituents of Triphala Churna, Avada, Harada, Behada. So, those were the fruits of the Bibhitaka tree, so that is as old as Rigveda. And they have given a very important instruction that while playing this game, you are supposed to have some pana. Pana is a shart, a condition. If I win you or something, you have to give this much on to me. Those panas were mutually decided. As you know, Shakuni did the same thing in Mahabharata, Dyuta. So, Dyuta and Akshavidya are quite nearer to them, each other. But the problem with Akshavidya and these things are, there are 2 or 3 traditions in Vedic times and following periods, but all are mixed together. So, if you want to go by the dice, after some period, your chess piece cannot go beyond that 64 houses. So, practical problems could be understood only when you play the game, but now this game also is not played, because now Akshas are already gone and you have new games, you can play chess also. So, when Akshas were there, what they did was, in order to get more money, they indulge in foul plays, cheating, that is known as Kitava or Kaitava. So, I want to earn more money. So, by foul means I will put the dice, that is Pasha, what is called Pasha in modern time, that was Pasha, that was Aksha, that is Aksha Kreeda, Prasha Kreeda or simply. So, they did all these things. So, in course of time, what happened? Everybody was indulging in this kind of game. So, there was a tragedy in the society, so many people lost everything, just like we see in modern times also. When they drink a lot, they lose everything. So, in course of time, the Dharma Shastras, so to say, prohibited the play of Aksha. Aksha hi Mahadivya. So, when Dharma Shastra came into the picture, this Aksha Kreeda slowly and slowly died down, and it gave, so to say, a new set of rules which was known as Buddhibala. Same, it is the revised form of Chaturanga. Now, I will tell you what is Chaturanga. Why the word is known as Chaturanga? There are 4 sides having 4 different colors. I have all these details, but I don't give details. And Chaturanga mainly means the 4-fold army of the king. Hasti Ashwaratha Padata. So, Chaturanga means 4-fold army of the king plus 4 different colors, Chaturanga. So, these 4 armies were standing above each other. The opposite kings were Sapaksha and the side kings were Vipaksha. So, A, B, C, D, 4 kings played, everybody has 4 pawns, and king, Tari or Nauka, or what you call camel in nowadays, then horse and elephant, these were the pieces, and 4 pawns in the front line. But the problem started when you have seen the rule is, If you throw 5, then either you have to play with the Raja or the Padati. If the throw is 4, then you have to play with Gaja, that means elephant. If it is 3, it is Ashwa, horse. And if it is 2, it is Tari or Nauka. See, those days, Nauka is a boat. That means we can say that this game flourished in a place where there were lot of water. That means you can say Bengal, anywhere, water play. In course of time, how does elephant say this Ust or camel in? So it must have gone from east to west to Rajasthan, where camels are very much. So this must have been the difficult, or they must have been 2-3 different traditions also. There is a Maithili tradition, there is Karnataka tradition, there may be some Bengal tradition. We have complete information about the Maharashtra tradition. I will leave it, I will speak to you later on what Maharashtra tradition. So these 4 things were important, and you were supposed to move your piece on the basis of the throw of the dice. So it was almost a kind of luck factor. Luck factor was there. And if luck factor is there, then of course by foul means you want to earn more money, you will play foul play. Cheating. Nowadays small children also say, Papa, you are cheating in playing games or playing cards. So cheating is a very common word nowadays. These were cheaters. So one who cheats gets a lot of money, but who is cheated loses everything. And his loss, his pitiable condition of his family, of his relatives, etc., I described it at Akshar Supta. We don't go into the details. Then in Chaturanga, these 4 kings were there, the 4 sides, and at a place, at some time, it so happens that you are confronted with each other. So your pada and the pawn or the other pawn are coming exactly opposite. Where to go now? Because if you have one only, then the pawn will go straight. If it is killing something, it will go in diagonal. So there is no place to go, and you can't go beyond the 64 houses. So that were problem. Those details are not clear. And same thing with Dyuta also. There were 2-3 traditions. They are mixed together, but you don't get a cohesive picture to build a history, a cohesive history or account of these games. And in Chaturanga, there were 3-4 technical terms. One was Simhasanam. See, one king going to the place of the other king, that's Simhasana. Simhasana is a throne. Then Chaturaji. See, as I told you, 2 kings form one part. If A is there, B, C are his opposites. So if he defeats B and C, D is with him. So his Sapaksha is with him. So all 3 things are with him if he wins over the other 2. So that becomes Chaturaji, 4. Then most important is Shatpada. Shatpada is going to the 6th place. See, the pawn is in the 2nd place and there are only 8 rows. So 6 rows, that means going to the last house of the opposite camp. And that is what we call in modern times termed as revival of the pawn. You must be knowing little bit of Buddhi word. So if the pawn goes to the end of the opposite line, if he enters the house of an elephant, he turns into an elephant. So that is revival of the pawn. So this Shatpada was very important. That means this tradition continues right from the Vedic times. We have to look to that tradition, unbroken tradition. Unfortunately, we did not play those games, and most of our literary evidence is destroyed. Has not come out to us. Only very few works are there available. I'll go to that. So these things, these technical terms came to us through tradition. But as you know, local tradition plays a very important role. Local variation. So every game has a local variation. You go to chess, you go to playing cards, wherever, even in snakes and ladders. Snakes and ladders primarily was played to teach the Indian Bhagavata religion. I will go to that next time. So when these technical terms were there, that means it must have been a very developed game. But in course of time, when Dharma Shastra prohibited the use of aksha or gambling, automatically some changes took place. And those changes took place in the form of the evolution of Chaturanga into Buddhibala, where Buddhi was more important. Buddhi is talent, reasoning power, or your logic to overpower your enemy. So, 4 kings of the Chaturanga turned into 2 kings of Buddhibala. All other things are there. All these pawns are the same pawns. Every king had 4 pawns. Here are 2 sides. So, everyone got 8 pawns. 8 pawns, king, etc. Those things. But in course of time, what happened? Because of the interrelation with foreigners, etc., etc., in Buddhibala, we have a very important, most important piece is that of Wazir or Queen, that is all Wazir or Queen in English, which never formed a part of our Chaturanga Sena. So, how did Wazir enter Indian theory or Indian chess? That is a different one. Okay? Now, we go to some, I have collected some 25 works dealing with Chaturanga and Buddhibala. 4 or 5 are manuscripts, all the remaining works, or 4 or 5 are printed books, all the remaining are manuscripts which I personally went and saw in different libraries, got their Xerox copies, etc., etc. So, my effort is based on a very important article written by Sri Chintaharan Chakravarti somewhere in 1940s. After that, till I worked in 1980, there was no paper on chess or anything like that. So, in 1940, Chintaharan Chakravarti from Calcutta wrote a paper on Sanskrit works on chess, something like that. And while I was working on this chess, I thought I should go to some catalogs. So, I referred to the New Catalogus Catalogorum, the most important source material for Sanskrit scholars to locate the manuscripts in which they are interested. There are some 25 entries of Chaturanga, etc. I will give a little bit of that. One is Chaturanga Kreeda of Veeravalli Buddha. Veeravalli Buddha is the author, and Chaturanga Kreeda, the alternate title is Ashwachakra. That means in this work, in Chaturanga Kreeda, he has described the movement of a horse, how the horse goes in 64 houses throughout the board, which consists of 6 houses. So, that is a pictorial account, no text is given. So, we skip over it. Then the most important work about Chaturanga is Chaturanga Deepika. It was written by Shulapani, a 15th century scholar, Dharmashastraka from Bengal. And Shulapani's work, its only manuscript, was available in Vishwabharati University, Shantiniketan, and it was edited by Manomohan Ghosh in somewhere 1921. So, that was the first official account of Chaturanga which we get, and that also, that Tithi Tattva is the name of a work by Tithi Tattva Raghunandan Bhattacharya, again a Bengali scholar. He wrote tattvas, Smriti Tattva, Tithi Tattva, etc. and in which Tithi what to be done. So, under the Kojagara Krutyam, under the Tithi of Kojagari Purnima, yes, it went off. You were supposed to keep awake throughout the night by playing. Sukho Jagarti Mahitale, who is awake at the dead night, that Lakshmi Devi is going through your places, walking through our world, and if she sees somebody playing at that time, she will shower some money on him. That was our idea of Kojagara Krutyam. So, under Kojagara Krutyam, Atha Kojagara Krutyam, he gives a varnana or description of Chaturanga Kreedanam. It is a work, hardly 35-37 verses are there, but the important thing is, he says, Atha Aksha Kreedayam Dharma Yudhishthira Samvadha Pracharati. No, there is some, yes, same thing. So it is pracharati, that means it has come from tradition. Sorry, Vyasa Yudhishthira Samvada. Yudhishthira is asking something, Vyasa is answering. So Atha Aksha Kreeda, that Aksha Kreeda is there, specific word. We should not take it as gambling, but dice play. Aksha Kreeda Vyasa Yudhishthira Samvada Pracharati. That means it has been a tradition which is describing. And there are some 35, 37 verses. Those details are, all these details are given, how to throw the etc. So I don't go into the details. Important thing about that is that Chaturanga Deepika refers to some 7 or 8 scholars. So either they were his contemporaries or his predecessors, or their works were available to this man in 16th century. But now we don't have any work available to us, which have been lost, destroyed, whatever it is. So he refers to Malika or Divya Malika, Yamala, Bharata, Vyasa, Manu, Yama, Pitama, Bhrigu, Gautama, and last is Guru Charana. How many gurus? We don't know how many gurus were there. But he remembers the Guru Charana, all his teachers, all his predecessors, who must have played and written books or booklets on this subject, which unfortunately we don't have. So the Chaturanga Kreeda or Chaturanga Deepika was the first official literary evidence available to us. Okay? So Chaturanga Deepika, 15th and 16th century. And Tithis of the 16th century said Kojagara Krutyam. That means this is related with your religion. Kojagara Krutyam. That means you remember one thing, our Dharma Shastra also has sanctioned the play. And Rajya Shastra says a king can play dice, not everyone. Mrugya, Dyuta, etc. are pastimes of the king, not for ordinary person. And there was one scholar, Adhikari Akshavapo, who used to supervise over the game players who were playing the game, whether they are playing foul or something like that. It was a superintendent, we can say. It was superintendent superintending over, overseeing over those things. That means inspecting whether anybody is working properly or giving some, we can say, excuses, go outside, get something, play out. That was the thing. And Chaturanga, for capture of every piece, you had some pana. That was mutually decided. So one whatever mohar, whatever pana was there, they were supposed to give and take. So the loser was supposed to give that much amount to the captor or the person who wins. So in this way, slowly and slowly, a person, because of his lucks, earns something, the other person loses something. So it is a game based on luck. Now we come to another important work, that is known as Chaturanga Vinoda. See, earlier books were titled as Chaturanga. Very few books are there which say Buddhibala. So Chaturanga Vinoda was a work composed by a person well known as top ranking grammarian of India, that is Vaidyanatha Paigunde. Vaidyanatha Paigunde was the grammarian. What was necessity of this man to go to play chess? Because he was Vaiyakarana. Vaiyakarana prathame vidwansa. That's what Alankarika says. So he was intelligent. So he went to play, and his manuscript, fortunately, was available with a person known as Mahamopadhyaya Hara Narayan Shastri, who was in those days, who was in Lahore. After partition, he shifted to Delhi, and in 1980-81, his collection after his death was donated to the Ganganath Jha Sanskrit Vidyapith. And there this manuscript was found, and Dr. G.C. Tripathi was the principal. He knew that I am working on it. So immediately he wrote me saying that we have got a collection of Harmar Shastri where there is a manuscript of Chaturanga. So he arranged a copy of that through his officer, Jiveshwar Jha. They sent me a transcript of it. Another thing, this is my, what should I say, my discovery. while going through different catalogs, I came to know that there is a collection of manuscripts in America under the title of Weber collection. Weber of the Sanskrit called everybody knows. So in Weber collection, it is in America. So there is a manuscript. So I wrote a letter to my friend Professor Dr. George Cardona, and he immediately sent me a Xerox of that manuscript which was preserved in America, and I was shocked to see that the date of the manuscript or the writing, the copying date of that manuscript is 22 January 1872. When Alfred Weber was in Bombay, he must have got this manuscript transcribed on 18 January 1872, and along with his collection he went to America. So original manuscript belonging to Haranarayan Shastri of Lahore came to Delhi, went to Allahabad, came back to Baroda, and this American manuscript also came back to Baroda. So this is the Tristhali Yatra, you can say, of a manuscript. How we get, and nowadays I always say, your personal relations matter. Officially they will say we have no manuscript, but you have personal relation, you get everything. So this is an instance of a foreigner helping an Indian, and throughout these 47 years of my service in Baroda, I found that foreigners are more helpful than Indians are, because manuscripts of India are not available to us, they are available to the foreigners. So I used to get those copies from Bikaner or Varanasi from foreigners who were white skinned. We are black skinned. So we don't bother about that. So if you are a white skin, you get the material, and my relations with those were very good. So all foreigners have been very helpful to me, and very few Indians are helping me. And that is the tragedy. My researcher on this field is known more in foreign countries than in India, because we don't read. And what is this? You read a printed text, this text, prescribed text, Veda, Vyakarana, Alankar, etc., etc. These are all non-comfort zones. Why should you go to off-the-track subject? That was our problem with. So when I started working on it, 2-3 outstanding scholars, I don't name them now here, they are dead. From Pune, they said, when P.K. Gode could not get anything about it, why are you wasting your time on games? I said, all right. So in 1982, I wrote a big bibliographical article on Sanskrit words on game of Ganjifa, and in 85 I wrote an article, Sanskrit words on game of playing cards, chess. When they read this article, they said, yes, you have done something which Gode could not do. See, those were the idiosyncrasies of every scholar has his idiosyncrasy. Those days, when we were doing our MA, there was a, so to say, practice. Vedic research is the only research. Classical research cannot be a kind of research. So one of my teachers, Dr. Govind Keshav Bhatt, G.K. Bhatt, professor of Sanskrit in Bombay, he was working under a scholar. He said, classical research is no research, only Vedic research. So he wrote a very small paper on Vidushaka. And when he showed it to his guide, he said, oh, yes, it can be a research also. And afterwards, Dr. Bhatt brought out a book on Vidushaka, a 300-page book on Vidushaka. History of Vidushaka, its place, etc., including in drama, Mohiniyattam, this everything. So that Vidushaka is a wonderful piece of research, classical research, not Vedic. It was written in English, it was translated in Marathi, it was translated in Gujarati also. I think they translated in Kannada also. So classical research is research. He has proved that. And I happen to be a student, so I continue this line of it. So Vaidyanatha Paigunde, I have not still published his work, manuscript with me. Most important work on Chaturanga is Chaturanga Vilasa Mani Manjari. Write down the name, very important. Chaturanga is a Vilasa and there is a Mani, that means this James, and Manjari is a top. So Chaturanga Vilasa Mani Manjari was composed by a person known as Tiruvengadacharya. He was from Tirupati. Tiruvengadacharya was a court poet at Bajirao Peshwa II. And Bajirao Peshwa's minister Sadashiv Mankeshwar, through that minister, he asked the Tiruvengadacharya to compose a work dealing with chase. And what is that? How was it should have been? Grantho bhavyo navinaha, that your work should be new. Sakala janahitaha, should be beneficial to everyone, to be understood by everyone. And Chaturanga pradhana, dealing with Chaturanga. So what will happen? Vidvamso, Rajasangha, all kings, Pramudita manasaha, very happy. Shekharam yaymaye, who they will carry your work on their head. So you should compose such a work where Chaturanga is important, Chaturanga pradhana. And that work was composed, and the basic structure of that work is there is a prastavana, then there is Purvakhanda where all questions are given, and there is Uttarakhanda where the answers are given. So questions are couched in Sanskrit, different meters in Sanskrit, and the answers are given in Marathi, so that general public also should know. So they wanted to revive these games. So Chaturanga Vilasamani Manjari was composed by this man, and his introduction Prastavana gives a lot of material. I'll just read out. Vailayatan Mahabhedan, Vailayate Vilayat, that be foreign. Hindusthanam cha sarvashat, Indian games also. Vakshami Vijigishunam, those who are interested in winning, Jagat Vijaya Hetave. If you study my book, you will be Jagat Vijaya Hetu. You will be able to, so to say, win everybody in the world. You can be a world champion. Why he says so? He says, Abhedyaha Vishamaha Bandha, these bandhas, that means this movement of the horse, etc., how horse goes. Abhedya Vishamaha Bandha, Durgamaha Vishmaya, they are very difficult to understand. And Vishmaya is wonderful. So you will not understand how this man was from this place we get to that place. Nirupyantetar, I am explaining everything here. Nirupyantetar sakalaha, yes, you loka vilakshana, which is extraordinary, not to be found in ordinary places. Loka vilakshana. And he has given 10 problems, 100 problems in Sanskrit, and their answers are that. One very important sentence he has used, Chainadehe alpasaratvat tal matam na sprushame. I am not going to touch the Chinese variety of cheese because it is alpasaro. It has no worth. That was his 1820, 200 years back. And he has described 3 varieties. Vaila is, that means foreign, Hindustani and Karnataka, but he has not described what is Karnataka exactly. By tradition he came to know, but Karnataka is Mushra Karnataka, Sabala and Durbala. As Sabala, Durbala, Buddhibala is there, everybody knows it, but he has not been able to give much details about that. So this work was very important, and since it was patronized by a king, there are many manuscripts of Chaturanga Vilasamani Manjari, mostly in Maharashtra and sometimes in Bengal also. Remember one thing, Maharashtra and Bengal went together, Maharashtra and South went together because of intellectual capacity. Bengalis were in forefront, Maharashtrians were in forefront, South Indians were in forefront, even in the freedom movement. So they were intellectual persons. So once you are intellectual, you don't see whether he comes from this place or that place, belonging to speaking this language or that language. So intellectual, so to say, association was more important. And when this work was produced, it was literally taken on the head by the scholars. Another important thing about Chaturanga Vilasamani Manjari is, he has arranged the games in such a way that in 10 moves you can beat the other king. How this happened, what is the change from Chaturanga to Buddhibala, now that we'll listen to that. Why Chaturanga is different from Buddhi Bala? What was the problem with Chaturanga which gave birth to Buddhi Bala? They will see it now. There are 8 points. I have noted it down. I will read it. How Chaturanga was evolved into or got evolved into Buddhi Bala. We will have a comparison. As I told you, Chaturanga was played with a dice, but Buddhi Bala there is no dice. Get the point? Because of dice, Chaturanga has Pana, Buddhi Bala doesn't have any Pana. Third is, movement of the chess pieces was regulated by dice, which doesn't happen in chess. Okay? Fourth, Chaturanga was a game of dice, but Buddhi Bala is a game of war game. Chaturanga has 4-fold army, elephants, etc. Same army is there, but in Chaturanga we have 4 kings, in Buddhi Bala we have 2 kings, and the entire army is divided into 2. Another important feature of Buddhi Bala is that foreign element of Wazir or Queen, which never formed a part of our 4-fold army. In Chaturanga, 4 kings were standing or sitting opposite to each other. But in Buddhi Bala, there are only 2 kings. There is no opposition except that. So their army of 4 kings was divided into 2 kings, same pieces, no Pana, only Buddhi, so that was Buddhi Bala. And in Chaturanga, we had Tari or Nauka, or that is called boat, which is represented in Buddhi Bala by camel, Ushtra. Same Gati. And most important thing is, in Chaturanga, you could kill a king or kings, but in Buddhi Bala, king cannot be killed, it can be checkmated. It should be taken in such a corner that he has no place to go away, non-plus king. So that is the intellect of the player, and Buddhi Bala they say the lowest piece of Buddhi Bala is the pawn, and if you checkmate the king with a almost nil value this pada, then that win was supposed to be the highest win. Because with elephant you can win anybody, but a person which has no shastra, nothing else, only buddhi. So pawn giving checkmate to a king was supposed to be the highest kind of victory in Buddhi Bala. Get the point? Now we go to another work. Everybody knows that Krishnaraja Vodayar III, king of Mysore, was a very great fellow, very great king and patron of learning. He has written a work known as Chaturanga Vihara. Vihara is going this way, that way in Chaturanga, and he has given the movement of the horses in that work. And another important point about this is the work is in Sanskrit and Marathi. So this Kannada king must be knowing Marathi, or he must have got Marathi material from some of his Sabhasada or some of his court poet, court pandit, etc. But unfortunately, this manuscript, which was available till 1964 because it was referred to in Delhi's exhibition, I tried to contact the director of the Government Oriental Manuscript Library Madras as well as director of archaeology of Madras State. They said, we don't have this manuscript, gone somewhere else. So we don't know what to say about this manuscript. Its work is there, it is mentioned, but it is at present, it is not in its proper place. Then the first word, Buddhi Bala, was used by a person somewhere in 10th or 12th century. The manuscript title of the work is Balaka Hita Buddhi Bala Kridana. The Buddhi Bala Kridana, which is Hita, beneficial to the Buddhi of a Bala, young man. So he wanted to teach this to the persons who were not grown up. And there is only 7 verses and a tika on that, known as Dhamini, but neither the author of the text is known nor the author of the commentary is known. It was published from Kolhapur in 1937. But important point about that is, in this work there is no Persian word, Burji, Matar, Rejwaji, etc. It means it must have been composed somewhere before the Muslims came to India. That is the conjecture. I may be wrong. Further studies to be done. Then we come to a work which specifically says Buddhi Prakasha, that Buddhi word. Buddhi Prakasha, Mati Prakasha, that is written by Nilakantha, and Nilakantha has given in 48 verses the entire arrangement of the army of Buddhibal. He doesn't refer to Chaturanga. Buddhibal army, the pieces, their value, how they move, all these things are given, but two important things are found in that book. He has used the word khanda. Khanda means obstruct to the king. You can't go further than that. And the most important word which he has used is tata. Tata means at a place, in a corner, where the king cannot go anywhere else. He is nonplussed. Where to go, to this way or that way, because on all three sides he checkmated. So that is the tata. He is standing on the fence. See, in political arena, so many persons are standing on the face. Fencing. So that is tata. He is standing on there, he doesn't know how to go this way or that way. So you know Parvati's description, na gato na chachala, she could not go, neither she could stand there. That was the position with Buddhi of Nilakantha. See, when we call something as Chaturanga, the Persians don't have cha, so they call it Shatranja. Chaturanga becomes Shatranja. So there are some words in known as Shatranja. I'll come to that. But first, before that, we come to another work known as Cheto Vinodana Kavyam. See, Cheto Vinodana Kavya was composed by a court poet of Kolhapur. His name was Daji Jyotirveer. He was a Jyotishi, and for the purpose of performing the Shraddha of his father, he started on a journey from Kolhapur, that means old Karvira, now Kolhapur, to Varanasi, Gaya, etc. etc. So while going, this work is very important. Name of the work is Cheto Vinodana Kavya. I have edited it in 1991. It is a work which gives geographical details also about the places, the rivers or the temples or the mountains, etc. right from Kolhapur up to Varanasi. And while going through these different places, he describes the indoor games which are played by the Yatrikas. So how will they pass their time? How will they kill their time? Because we get bored every time, every now and then, they must be getting bored. After doing, what will they do when there is all darkness? So it is 1820, the description is 1820. There was no electricity those days. Once sun sets, is gone. So what they were doing? Doing some games, etc. Some, we can say, small mandir, diye hote na, small lamps. There he had described Buddhibala, Patra Kreeda and Dyuta. Dyuta is a dice game, as I told you. There also, once again I told you, there was a tradition of scholars, Jivu Bhatta, Baji Panta, Ramanuja, Pundalika, Jam, all the Maharashtrian scholars are named in his work, but their works are not available. And he says, Tanmatani Drashtva, Lakshana Metan Maya Krutam Sakalam. Whatever I have written in this book, Buddhibala Lakshana, is taken from the notes of these scholars who were predecessors to me or who were playing with me, but their works are not available to us. But whatever they taught this man, he has included that in his book, in Buddhi Lakshana area, chapter of Cheto Vinodana Kavya. Now we come to Shatranja Kutuhala. See, Persians call it Shatranja. And as I told you, Chintaharan Chakravarti from Calcutta published the first article on chess, and he has edited this, that is number That is संस्कृत साहित्य परिषद बंगाल कलकत्ता में है ना. संस्कृत साहित्य परिषद कोलकाता series number 24, that is Shatranja Kutuhalam, and it is in the form of verses and tika. 10 verses are there and tika is there for Balabodha. But the most important thing is he has given the etymology of the word Shatranja. See, Shatranja is not a Sanskrit word, it's a Persian word. But in spite of that, this man, the scholar, gives the etymology. What he says? Matimatam atimati abhivruddhaye. There are matimata. Since you are playing buddhibala, Shatranja, you are matimat. Abhivruddhaye, they should be increased in their intellect. Virachitam Shatranja Kutuhalam. I have composed this Shatranja Kutuhala for satisfying their desire to increase their already sharp intellect. And why have I done it? Narashatan anuranjayati dhruvam. Narashata. It pleases Narashata. Hundreds of human beings are pleased by this. Therefore, it is known as Shataranjam ata arthata kritam. So, artha of Shataranja artha is Shatan ranjayati Shataranjam. Okay? So, this is the explanation, the etymology of the word Shataranja which he has given. And it is the description, I should say it is a dialogue between Radha and Krishna. You know, Bengal is that Vaishnava is there and Radha Krishna is there. So whatever you do, in our Agamata, this Tantra, we see Shankara Parvati Samvada. If you go to Bengal, it is Radha Krishna Samvada. So in the form of the Samvada between Radha and Krishna, he has given the description of the Chaturanga or say Shatranja or this game. Okay? This word is used by another person, is a Gujarati coming from Bombay. See the difference. A Gujarati coming from Bombay using a Persian word. He has written a work, Shatranja Ranga, very important work. It was 1868, that means nearly 200 years ago. There are 37 verses and it is the discourse of a man addressed to his beloved Priya. And the words he has used for her, the Sambodhanas, are wonderful. He says, Ibhagate, very Gajagati, Raka Yamini Isha Upama Asye, whose face is as beautiful as the full moon, Raka Yamini. Then Khanjana Kshobi Netre, whose eyes are fighting with the bird known as Khanjana. And Divya Dakshe, Vinoda Dakshe, that means you are expert in Vinoda also. Vinoda means mind game or entertaining your mind. And he says, Kheloyam Sad Asuro Divya Dakshe. Tasmadatar Prakruta Santi Shabda. See, Shataranja is a Prakruta word. Prakruta, that means Mlecha word we can say, non-Sanskrit word. Don't say that Prakrut. Mlecha, that means non-Sanskrit. Prakruta is non-Sanskrit. And he has used the word Darajabaji, Rejabaji, that means Persian words, but describing Indian game of Chaturanga. And the importance of this work is he has given 2 maps in the manuscript itself, and he has shown the movement of the horse, how it goes, and there is a Sanskrit, 2 Sanskrit verses. I don't quote them here, they are 4-line long verses, but he explains the movement of the horse through the verses, 2 verses, and after that he gives a diagram also showing the places of horse. So, if the horse starts at number 1, the second will be number 16, because horse goes at 2.5 times. So that Shataranja Ranga was very important. And this is the way the Buddhibala was continued to be played. We will come to the end. Oh, there are still so many things. There was the king known as Someshwara III of Chalukya king, 12th century. He composed a work known as Manasollasa. Abhilashitartha Chintamani. There he has given description of Buddhibala. Of course, that is not original, taken from some different sources. and Kreeda Vimshati. There is the Kreeda Vimshati. The verses are 560 to 633. Then again, as told you earlier, Dharma Shastra had sanctioned games. So Niti Mayukha, a work on Dharma Shastra by Nilakanta Bhatta, he has 20 verses of Buddhi Bala at the end of his work. Last 20 verses of Niti Mayukha are the work on Buddhi Bala, how to play it. And we come to the second last, Sri Tattva Nidhi, Sri Krishnaraj Vodeyar, third, 1794 to 1868. He composed a work known as Sri Tattva Nidhi. It is a work on Murti Shastra, how murtis of gods and goddesses are to be created, fashioned. But that work is divided into 9 chapters, and the last chapter is known as Kautuka Nidhi, that means Kutuhala, what is your curiosity to know. And in that Kautuka Nidhi, he has described Buddhi Bala. Only 10 verses, but he has described that. And now I come, towards the end of the lecture, I come to the most important work in Sanskrit, the only work in Sanskrit which deals with games, and that is known as Kreeda Kaushalya. Kreeda Kaushalya was composed by Venkatram Harikrishna, a Gujarati scholar from Kannauj who had settled in Aurangabad in Maharashtra. So he knew the games of North India, Maharashtra as well as Gujarat. So he has composed the word Kreeda Kaushalya. There in the Mishra Skandha of that book, the title of his book is Bruhat Jyoti Saranava. There are some skandhas, and in the Mishra Skandha this work comes, Kreeda Kaushalya. At the end of the lecture, I will take 5-7 more minutes. I spoke to you about Maharashtra tradition. I will explain it 5-10 minutes. This Harikrishna Venkatram was a Gujarati fellow settled in Maharashtra. We had Daji Jyotirvid settled in Kolhapur. He was a Maharashtrian. And we had Tiruvengadacharya of Chaturanga Vilasa Manjari. He was a court poet at Pune. So all these 3 persons stayed in Maharashtra. So they have studied the Maharashtra tradition, and they have pointed out one very important aspect of Buddhi Bala. They say at the beginning of the game, you can start the play of Buddhi Bala with the move of the king, and Gamanam Ashwavat Bhave. The king will go like a horse, hopping 2.5. So this is the peculiarity of Maharashtra tradition of chess playing, which is not mentioned in any other work except these 3 works, which were written by 3 different scholars belonging to 3 different places, but domiciled in one place known as Maharashtra. So these 3 persons pointed out the important factor of the tradition of Maharashtra Buddhi Bala, saying that this was the prevalent thing in those days in 19th century, 1820, 1825, etc., etc. I don't know whether the modern players either have read the Chaturanga Vilasa Manjari or the Kreeda Kaushalya, but our young students are getting championship, they are becoming world champions. They must have studied some of the games. But many of the Sanskrit scholars, I should say 99.9, do not know that games is a very, very rich and interesting topic of research which can be pursued. I have been pursuing this for last 47 years. Tomorrow I will deal with other 2 topics, other 2 indoor games, that will be playing cards and snakes and ladders. Thank you for your patient hearing.